The box arrived at Vought Tower on a Tuesday morning. No ceremony, no press. Just a wooden crate marked with faded German script and a delivery manifest that listed the seller as Estate Liquidation Munich. The intern who signed for it didn't care. 3 months in the acquisitions department meant he'd seen stranger things come through. Last week, it was a jar of teeth. Week before that, a mummified hand someone swore belonged to a saint. This was just another item for the legacy division to catalog and forget. He wheeled it down to sub-level 4, left it outside the vault, and went back upstairs to finish his coffee. The box sat in the hallway for 6 hours before anyone noticed. When Dr. Sarah Vance finally got around to opening it, she almost sent it back. The thing inside didn't look like much. Dark metal, vaguely humanoid shape, articulated joints that suggested armor rather than sculpture. Old, very old. The kind of old that made her think of museums, not research labs. But the manifest had flagged it. Anomalous acquisition, historical interest, flagged for bio-interaction testing. She ran her fingers along the surface. Cold. Colder than the room. The metal had a texture like bone ridges and valleys that didn't follow any pattern she recognized. Not Germanic craftsmanship, not anything she'd seen before. Her assistant, a nervous kid barely 3 months out of grad school, leaned in close. "What do you think it is?" "Something we shouldn't have bought," Vance said. But she pulled it out of the crate anyway. The armor, because that's what it was, she could see that now came apart in pieces. Gauntlets, greaves, a breastplate that looked more like a rib cage than protective gear. And a helmet. She saved that for last. When she lifted it, the helmet was heavier than it should have been. Not because of the metal, because of something else. A weight that settled in her chest and made her want to put it back in the box and seal it forever. The assistant must have felt it too. He stepped back without saying anything. Vance set the helmet down on the examination table and switched on the lights. Harsh fluorescent glare. Everything in the lab looked sterile under that light. Clean, safe. The helmet didn't. She brought up the historical file. Scanned documents, half-redacted smudged ink on yellowed paper. The Nazis had found it in 1944. Some depot outside Berlin. They'd been looking for artifacts, anything that might give them an edge in the war. Ancient weapons, occult relics. The usual desperation. They'd found this. The file didn't say what happened next. Just a note at the bottom, handwritten in rushed German. Vance's translation software spit it out in blocky English text. Anomalous bleed event. Personnel lost. Site abandoned. She looked at her assistant. "You ever hear of a bleed event?" He shook his head. "Neither have I." She pulled up the next document. Photographs this time. Black and white, grainy, taken with a camera that shook in someone's hands. The first image showed the armor laid out on a table, much like it was now. The second showed the same table, but the armor was gone. The third showed something in the corner of the room. A shadow. Or maybe a person. Hard to tell with the image quality. The fourth photograph was blank. Just white noise and a dark smudge in the center. Vance closed the file. "Run a scan," she said. "Full spectrum. I want to know what we're dealing with." The assistant moved to the console. He was good at this part. Numbers, data, things that made sense. He tapped keys, pulled up readouts, adjusted sensors. The first scan came back normal. Metal alloy, high carbon content trace elements that didn't match anything in the database, but weren't impossible. Old world metallurgy, probably hand-forged. The second scan didn't come back at all. He frowned. Ran it again. Same result. The thermal imaging just stopped. No data. No error message. Just a blank screen where the readings should have been. Try again, Vance said. He did. Third time. Fourth. Fifth. Nothing. It's not malfunctioning, he said slowly. The equipment's fine. It's just not picking anything up. Vance stared at the armor. It sat on the table inert, exactly where she'd left it. But the temperature gauge on the wall read 2 degrees colder than it had 10 minutes ago. She reached for the helmet again. Her hand stopped halfway. There was a sound. Faint. Almost too quiet to hear. Like someone breathing. Slow, deliberate. The kind of breath that came from deep in the chest, from lungs that had been holding air for a very long time. The assistant heard it too. Doctor. I know. The sound didn't repeat. Just that one breath. Then silence. Vance pulled her hand back. Log it, mark the file as under review, and get someone from engineering down here. I want to know why the scans aren't working. He nodded. He didn't move immediately. Just stood there staring at the armor. Go, Vance said. He went. When the door closed, Vance was alone with the artifact. She stood in the sterile light hands at her sides and looked at the thing they'd pulled from a German basement. It looked back. Not literally. It was metal, inert, lifeless. But the cold in the room deepened. And somewhere far away, something that had been waiting for a very long time began to wake. Upstairs, in a boardroom on the 40th floor, a different conversation was taking place. We paid how much for this? The voice belonged to Marcus Webb, VP of Legacy Acquisitions. He had the file open on his tablet, scrolling through the purchase orders with the kind of irritation that came from seeing 7 figures spent on something he didn't understand. Across the table, his counterpart from legal, a woman named Diane Frost, didn't look up from her own screen. The estate sale was competitive. Munich's been liquidating Nazi holdings for years. Most of it's junk, some of it's not. And this is not. That's what research is supposed to tell us. Webb leaned back in his chair. You read the file? I did. And Frost finally looked at him. The Nazis used it, or tried to. That's worth something. They also tried a lot of things that got them killed. Exactly. Frost's smile was thin. If they were desperate enough to risk it, maybe we should be curious enough to study it. Webb closed the file. I don't like it. You don't have to like it. You just have to sign off on the research budget. What if it's dangerous? Then we contain it. That's what sub-level 4 is for. Webb didn't answer. He stared at the tablet for a long moment, then swiped his finger across the approval field. His signature appeared in neat digital script. If this goes wrong, he said, I'm blaming you. Frost stood. If this goes wrong, you won't have time to blame anyone. She left the room. Webb sat alone in the boardroom, surrounded by glass and steel and the faint hum of the air conditioning. 40 floors above the vault, 40 floors above the thing they'd just bought. He didn't know it yet, but the signature he'd just added to the file was the most expensive mistake Vought International had made in 5 years. Down in sub-level 4, the temperature dropped another degree. And deep inside the helmet, in a place where metal met something older than metal, a faint red glow began to pulse. Just once. Then it went dark. The testing began on Wednesday at 6 in the morning. Dr. Vance hadn't slept. She'd stayed in the lab all night, watching the armor through the reinforced glass, waiting for it to do something. It didn't. By dawn, she'd convinced herself the breathing sound had been a fluke. Air pressure differential, the ventilation system, something rational. Her assistant arrived at 7. He looked worse than she did. Dark circles under his eyes, hands that trembled slightly when he set down his coffee. "You okay?" Vance asked. "Bad dreams," he said. She didn't ask what kind. The test protocol was simple. Introduce a small sample of compound V into the containment field. Monitor for reactions. Standard procedure for any anomalous material that might interact with biological enhancement agents. Vought had been doing this for years. Most artifacts did nothing. Some showed minor electromagnetic fluctuations. A few had exploded. Vance didn't think this one would explode. She thought it would do something worse. The containment field hummed to life. Transparent polymer walls, 6 inches thick, rated to contain a low-level blast. Inside the armor, sat on its pedestal, unchanged. Still, silent. Her assistant prepared the V sample. 3 milliliters, enough to give a rat enhanced strength for about 6 hours before the compound burned out of its system. Not enough to do serious damage if something went wrong. "Ready?" he asked. Vance nodded. He activated the delivery system. A small mechanical arm extended from the ceiling of the containment field holding a vial. It tilted. The compound dripped onto the armor's breastplate. For 5 seconds, nothing happened. Then the temperature in the lab dropped 10 degrees. Vance's breath misted in front of her face. The assistant stumbled back from the console, rubbing his arms. Frost formed on the viewing barrier, spreading in intricate patterns that looked almost deliberate. Inside the containment field, the Compound 5 wasn't glowing anymore. It was evaporating. Not burning, not reacting, just disappearing. Like something was drinking it. The monitors went haywire. Energy readings spiked, then flatlined. The thermal cameras showed a void where the armor should be. Not cold, not hot, just absence. "Shut it down," Vance said. Her assistant hit the kill switch. The containment field powered off. The mechanical arm retracted. The temperature in the lab stayed exactly where it was. Vance watched the armor through the frosted glass. It looked the same as before. Black steel, articulated joints, the helmet with its vacant gaze. But something had changed. She felt it in her chest. That same weight from yesterday, but heavier now, pressing down, making it hard to breathe. Her assistant felt it too. He backed toward the door without looking away from the armor. "We need to stop," he said. "We need data." "Fuck the data. We need to—" The lights went out. Not a flicker, not a brownout, just instant darkness, complete and absolute. The kind that made you forget what light looked like. Vance's hand found the edge of the console. She held on, counted to 3, waited for the emergency backups to kick in. They didn't. Then she heard it again. That breathing. Slow, deliberate. Coming from inside the containment field. Except now it was closer. The emergency lights finally came on. Dim red glow. Barely enough to see by. The containment field was empty. The armor was gone. Vance's assistant made a sound. Not quite a word. Just a choked noise that came from somewhere deep in his throat. She turned slowly. The armor stood in the corner of the lab. 10 feet from where it had been. 10 feet closer to them. It hadn't walked. The cameras would have caught that. It had simply moved. Appeared. Relocated. Her assistant ran for the door. Vance didn't stop him. She stood frozen, staring at the thing they'd pulled from a German basement. The thing that had just proven it could leave containment whenever it wanted. The helmet's dark hollows tracked her movement. She reached for the emergency intercom. Her hand shook so badly it took 3 tries to hit the button. "Security to sublevel 4, she said. Her voice came out flat. Professional. The kind of tone you used when you were screaming inside but needed to sound calm. "We have a containment breach." The intercom crackled. "Repeat that. Containment breach. Sub-level 4. Asset has relocated outside designated parameters." A pause. "Is it hostile?" Vance looked at the armor. It hadn't moved again. Just stood there patient like it had all the time in the world. "Unknown," she said. "Evacuate the lab. Security team en route." She didn't evacuate. She stood there watching the armor, waiting to see what it would do next. It did nothing. 5 minutes later, the security team arrived. 4 men in tactical gear carrying weapons that probably wouldn't do anything against whatever this was. They swept the room with flashlights and thermal scanners, treating the armor like a biological hazard. The team leader approached it slowly. "Ma'am, we need you to step back." Vance moved back. He circled the armor, keeping his distance, scanning it from every angle. His scanner beeped once, then went silent. "It's not moving," he said. "I know. Why did you report a breach?" "Because it moved." From the containment field to here, the team leader looked at the empty field, looked at the armor, looked back at Vance. "Did you see it move?" "No, but it did." He didn't argue, just radioed upstairs. "Control, we have a situation. Request containment protocols for mobile anomalous asset." The response took longer than it should have. When it came, the voice sounded uncertain. "Define mobile." "Asset relocated without documented transit. Recommend upgraded containment and suspension of testing pending review." Another pause. "Negative. Testing continues. Upgrade containment to level 5 protocols. Do not suspend research." The team leader's jaw tightened. "Control, that's not orders from Legacy Division. Continue testing. Upgrade containment. That's final." He lowered the radio, looked at Vance. "You heard that?" "I heard it." "You still want to do this?" She looked at the armor one more time, at the worn metal and the hollow gaze and the weight in the air that made her lungs hurt. "No," she said. "But we don't have a choice." The team leader nodded. "Then we do it right. Level 5 means reinforced field remote operation, no direct contact. You work from the control room upstairs. Agreed." "Agreed." They left the armor where it was, sealed the lab, posted guards outside. Vance went upstairs to file her report. She didn't see her assistant again. He'd submitted his resignation by email 10 minutes after leaving the lab. Effective immediately. No explanation. Human Resources marked him as voluntary termination. No exit interview required. By Thursday morning, he had been replaced. The new assistant was older, calmer. A career researcher who had spent 15 years in Vaught's pharmaceutical division before transferring to Legacy. His name was Dr. Ravi Kapoor. He had clearance. He had experience. He had no idea what he was walking into. Vance met him in the control room, showed him the footage from Wednesday. The Compound 5 evaporating, the temperature drop, the armor's relocation. Kapoor watched it twice. "Has it moved since?" "No." "Has anyone entered the lab?" "Security swept it. They didn't touch anything." He leaned back in his chair. "So we have an artifact that responds to Compound by consuming it and demonstrating limited spatial displacement." "That's one way to put it." "What's your way?" Vance looked through the barrier at the lab below, at the armor standing in the corner, patient and still. "I think it's waking up," she said. Kapoor didn't laugh, Didn't tell her she was being irrational, just nodded slowly. Then we need to understand what happens when it's fully awake, he said. Before or after it kills someone, preferably before. They ran the second test on Thursday afternoon. This time they used a modified V variant, the kind Vought had developed for controlled applications. Lower potency, slower metabolic burn, easier to measure. The delivery system was remote. The monitoring station was 20 feet above the lab behind reinforced glass. Kapoor initiated the sequence. The mechanical arm descended. The compound dripped onto the armor's gauntlet. Same result. The air grew colder. Energy readings collapsed into void. The compound evaporated. But this time something else happened. The armor's joints shifted. Just slightly. A minute adjustment in the angle of the fingers. The tilt of the helmet. It looked like someone flexing, testing their range of motion, getting comfortable. Vance's hand found the emergency shutdown. Stop the test. Not yet. Kapoor's eyes were locked on the monitors. Look at the energy readings. She looked. The void was spreading. Not physically, but the sensors were picking up something. A field. A distortion. Like reality was bending around the armor, creating a space where normal rules stopped applying. It's not just consuming the compound, Kapoor said. It may be using it. Using it for what? The lights flickered. Once, twice. Then every monitor in the room went black, not powered off, just black, displaying nothing, like something had reached through the screens and pulled out the images from the other side. Vance hit the shutdown. Nothing happened. She hit it again. Still nothing. Manual override, Kapoor said. He was already moving, crossing to the wall panel, entering the emergency code. The containment field powered down. The lab below was empty. The armor was gone again. Vance felt her breath stop. Kapoor froze mid-step, hands still extended toward the control panel. They both knew what came next. The armor appeared in the room with them, between them and the door. It stood perfectly still, the surface catching the dim emergency lights. The helmet's hollow gaze fixed on them with an attention that felt impossibly focused. Vance's hand moved toward the intercom, slowly, carefully. The helmet tracked the movement. She stopped. For 10 seconds, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then the armor took a step forward. Not a shuffle, not a mechanical lurch. A step, fluid, controlled. The movement of something that had worn this body for a very long time. Kapoor pressed himself against the wall. Doctor. Don't run, Vance whispered. Why not? Because I don't think it's hunting us. The armor took another step. Closer now. Close enough that Vance could see the details. The worn edges, the joints that moved without sound. The weight of the thing, which should have made the floor creak but didn't. It stopped 3 feet away, raised one hand, pointed past them, toward the far wall, toward the sealed exit that led to the upper levels. Then it made a sound. Not words, not language, just a low resonance, like metal scraping across bone. A sound that bypassed the ears and went straight into the chest, vibrating in the ribs, making the heart skip. Vance understood what it meant. She reached for the intercom. This time, the armor allowed it. Control, she said. We need to initiate facility breach protocols. Negative. Asset remains contained. It's not contained. It's in the monitoring station with us. A longer pause. Dr. Vance, clarify your statement. I'm saying it's not an artifact. Something's inside it. And whatever it is doesn't recognize our containment as valid. The response came from a different voice. Older, more authority, Marcus Webb. Doctor, are you in immediate danger? Vance looked at the armor, at the hollow gaze that watched her with something that might have been patience. I don't know, she said. Then stand by. The armor lowered its hand, turned away from them, walked to the viewing barrier. The glass was 6 inches thick, reinforced polymer, rated to stop small arms fire. The armor reached out, touched it with one finger. The glass cracked, not shattered, just cracked. A single line spreading from the point of contact, branching out in patterns too deliberate to be random. Then it pushed. The barrier didn't break. It warped, bent, like the molecular structure had forgotten how to be solid. The armor walked through the distortion and dropped into the lab below. It landed without sound, straightened to its full height. And for the first time since Vought had pulled it from that German basement, the thing wearing the berserker armor stood fully upright. The facility's power grid failed. Every light, every monitor, every system from sub-level 4 to the executive floors 40 stories up. In the sudden blackness, something began to tear. Not the armor, not the walls. Reality itself. A rift opened in the corner of the lab. Ragged edges, light that hurt to look at, and beyond it, darkness that went deeper than any darkness should. The air around the opening grew cold enough to burn, and from somewhere on the other side, something moved. The armor turned toward the rift, stood there, waiting. The temperature dropped another 10 degrees. Then something crossed the threshold. The call came in at 2:47 in the morning. Dispatch couldn't tell what to make of it. Woman's voice shaking, talking about a man with a sword. Big sword. Bigger than any sword should be. He'd emerged from an alley 3 blocks from the interstate, covered in a dark substance that might have been blood. And when the soup showed up, that's where the call got strange. The soup didn't show up on the callback. Neither did the woman. Just static and a dial tone that lasted 30 seconds before the line went dead. 2 patrol units responded anyway. Standard procedure, possible assault, possible metahuman involvement. They found the alley. They found the woman sitting on the curb staring at nothing. They found the soup, what was left of him. Officer Ramirez had been on the force for 8 years. He'd seen gang shootings, drug deals gone wrong, domestic violence that painted walls red. He thought he'd seen everything. He was wrong. The body, if you could call it that, was split down the middle. Clean cut, sternum to pelvis. The kind of precision that shouldn't be possible with a bladed weapon, especially not against someone with reinforced bone structure and subdermal plating. But it had happened. The sword was still there, driven into the asphalt like a marker. Taller than Ramirez, wider than his forearm, metal so dark it seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. His partner, a younger cop named Torres, approached the woman. "Ma'am, can you tell us what happened?" She stayed silent, just kept staring at the spot where the alley met the street. Torres tried again. "Ma'am, we need to know." "He saved me," she said. Her voice came out flat, mechanical. "The one in the suit. He was going to, and then the other one came. The stranger with the sword." Ramirez exchanged a glance with Torres. "Can you describe him?" "Tall, scarred, one eye." He said nothing, just passed me, like I wasn't there. Where did he go? She pointed toward the warehouse district. That way, he's still out there. Torres radioed it in. Ramirez stayed with the body, trying not to think about how clean the cut was, how the edges didn't match any weapon profile he'd ever seen. The woman started crying. Not loud, just quiet tears that ran down her face without her seeming to notice. He saved me, she said again. Ramirez had no words for that. 15 minutes later, backup arrived. Then the forensics team. Then someone from Vaught's crisis management division wearing a suit too expensive for 3 in the morning. The suit took one look at the body and made a phone call. By dawn, the street was empty. The body was gone. The sword was gone. The woman was gone. Official report listed it as a gas leak, structural damage, no casualties. The security footage from 3 different cameras showed nothing but static. But somewhere in a basement server farm, a junior tech was uploading raw files to an encrypted drive. Files that showed a man in battered armor cutting through a C-list soup like the guy's enhancements meant nothing. Files that would end up in Billy Butcher's inbox by noon. Butcher watched the footage 4 times. The quality was poor, grainy, shot from a bad angle through a chain-link fence. But it was enough. A man. Big. Moving like he knew exactly where he needed to be. Sword that looked like it weighed more than most people. And a soup butcher recognized him, some local enforcer named Rip Strike, who worked protection for street dealers trying to play hero for the cameras. Rip Strike hadn't lasted 5 seconds. The stranger moved once, just once, and Rip Strike came apart. No hesitation, no showboating, just efficiency. Butcher paused the video on the final frame. The man's face half in shadow, scarred to hell, missing an eye, staring at the camera like he knew someone was watching and cared nothing for it. "Fuck me," Butcher said. MM glanced up from his coffee. "What? We've got a problem." "We always have a problem?" "Not like this." Butcher turned the laptop around. "Tell me what you see." MM watched the clip. His expression remained unchanged, but his grip on the coffee cup tightened. "That's not Compound V." "No, it's not." "Where'd he come from?" "That's the question, innit?" Huey leaned over MM's shoulder, squinting at the frozen image. Is that a real sword?" "Looks real to me," Butcher said. "Nobody uses swords anymore. This one does." Frenchie emerged from the back room, wiping grease off his hands. "What is this shouting about?" Butcher replayed the video. Frenchie watched in silence, his usual humor draining away as the clip reached its conclusion. "Mon Dieu," he said quietly. "That is not possible." And yet, soups have reinforced skeletons, subdermal armor. This man cuts through like... Frenchie made a slicing gesture. "Like butter." "Yeah." "Where is he now?" "Don't know. Vaught's scrubbing the scene, but I've got a feeling they don't know either." MM set down his coffee. "So we've got an unknown metahuman with an unknown power set killing soups on American soil. That's going to get messy fast." "It already is." Butcher pulled up another file. "Got this from a contact in Vaught's IT. Power outage last night. Whole facility went dark for 4 minutes. When it came back up, an asset from Vaught's legacy division was missing." "What kind of asset?" "The kind they don't put in the official databases." Huey frowned. "You think this guy came from Vaught?" "I think Vaught bought a piece they shouldn't have, and now it's out there cutting soups in half. So what do we do?" Butcher closed the laptop. We find him before Vought does, and we figure out if he's an asset or another problem we need to solve. MM stood. And if Vought finds him first, then they'll try to recruit him or kill him. Depends on how the PR math works out. You think they can kill him? Butcher thought about that final frame. The man standing in the alley, sword in hand, expression calm, in a way that came from seeing worse things than this world had to offer. No, he said. I don't think they can. The reports started filtering in around midday. Vaught's crisis team had been working overtime, scrubbing social media, killing threads, sending takedown notices to anyone who'd posted about the incident. But the internet was faster than they were. Someone had recorded a vertical video on their phone. 20 seconds of shaky footage showing a figure moving through an intersection. The comments were already spiraling. Is that a cosplayer? Bro, that sword is real. Vaught's gonna take this down in 3, 2. The video was taken down. Then it was reposted. Then it was taken down again. By 3 p.m., there were 6 copies circulating on 3 different platforms. By 5 p.m., Vought had stopped trying to kill it. Ashley Barrett sat in her office on the 83rd floor, staring at the damage control briefing with the kind of exhausted rage that came from watching a PR strategy implode in real time. Her phone buzzed. Homelander's name on the screen. She answered. I'm working on it. I didn't ask if you were working on it. His voice was calm, too calm. I asked what the fuck it is. We don't know yet. Unacceptable. Legacy Division is handling. Legacy Division lost it. Now it's out there. Killing our people. On camera. Ashley opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. The footage is being contained. The footage is everywhere. Homelander's voice dropped lower. I want to know what it is, where it came from, and why nobody told me Vought was playing with a threat that can kill soups. I'll get you answers. You'll get them by tonight. Or I'll get them myself. He hung up. Ashley sat in the silence of her office, looking out over the city, watching the sun set over buildings that held no concern for corporate damage control or meta-human incidents or anything except standing where they'd always stood. She pulled up the footage again. The swordsman, the body, the efficiency. Her hand hovered over the keyboard. Then she typed a single word into the search bar. Berserker. The results weren't helpful. Mythology, video games, historical references to Norse warriors who fought without fear. None of it explained him. None of it explained why every analyst who'd reviewed the footage kept using the same phrase. He moves like he's done this before. Ashley deleted the search history, closed the window, picked up her phone. She had calls to make, people to threaten, narratives to shape. But first, she pulled up the video one more time and watched him move through the frame like the whole world was just an obstacle he hadn't decided to remove yet. Somewhere in a condemned building near the docks, Guts cleaned his sword. The cloth came away dark. He'd found water in a broken pipe. Cold. Rust-flavored. Good enough. The armor sat in the corner exactly where he'd left it. He could feel it watching him. The weight of it. The pull. Not yet. He'd worn it too long already. Longer than he should have. Longer than was safe. But this place, this world, didn't follow the rules he knew. The things that called themselves heroes here weren't heroes. The things that called themselves monsters were just men in suits. And the sword still cut through them, the same way it cut through everything else. He hadn't been here long. Already he'd killed one. Already they were looking for him. That was fine. He'd been hunted before. Footsteps outside, multiple sets. Trying to be quiet. Failing. Guts stood, wrapped his hand around the sword's grip, waited. The door opened slowly. 3 figures silhouetted against the afternoon light. One stepped forward. Older, British accent. Easy now. We're not here to fight. Guts said nothing. Name's Butcher. These are associates. We saw what you did last night. Still nothing. That soup was working for bad people. You did the neighborhood a favor. Guts's grip tightened on the sword. Butcher noticed. Raised his hands slightly. We're not with Vought. We're not with anyone. We just want to talk. About what? Guts said. His voice came out rough, unused. About why you're here. About what you want. And about how we might help each other. Guts studied them, really studied. The one doing the talking had the eyes of someone who'd crossed too many lines to count. The big one behind him moved like military. The skinny one looked terrified, but was standing his ground anyway. Not corporate, not heroes, just people. I'm looking for something, Guts said. What? A way back. Butcher nodded slowly. Back where? Guts gave no answer, just turned his gaze past them toward the city skyline, toward the tower that rose above everything else. The one with the Vought logo visible from miles away. They opened the door, he said. Butcher followed his gaze. When he turned back, his expression had shifted. Understanding, maybe respect. Then we've got a common interest, Butcher said. Because Vought's got a lot of things they shouldn't have. And we've been meaning to take a closer look. Guts studied him for a long moment, then lowered the sword, just slightly. Talk, he said. Butcher smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. Right then, he said. Let's discuss how to rob a multinational corporation. The footage hit the dark web at 3 a.m. Not the scrubbed version Vought had been pushing. Not the edited clips with convenient glitches and missing frames. The raw file. Uncompressed. Time-stamped. With metadata that proved it came from a city surveillance camera Vought didn't control. By sunrise, it had been downloaded 47 times. By noon, someone had posted it to a forum frequented by ex-Vought employees. The kind of people who'd signed NDAs and then watched the company bury their complaints under legal fees and severance packages. They recognized an opportunity when they saw one. The file went viral in the underground. Not mainstream. Not yet. But spreading through the channels that mattered. The places where people who hated Vought gathered to share grievances and evidence that never made it to court. One of those people was a former security analyst who'd worked sub-level 6 for 3 years before Vought restructured and eliminated his position. He still had friends on the inside. Friends who knew how to route files through air-gapped systems without triggering alerts. He posted the video with a single line of text. Not V, not ours. Vought doesn't know what this is. The comment section exploded. Huey found it 6 hours later, sitting in a coffee shop 3 blocks from the safe house, using a burner laptop and a VPN that bounced his connection through 8 different countries. He called Butcher. You need to see this. I'm busy. It's spreading, underground, but spreading. And someone's adding context. Butcher's tone shifted. What kind of context? The kind that makes Vought look like they lost control of a threat. Send me the link. Huey did, then waited. Butcher called back 2 minutes later. Get everyone, now. Now, they gathered in the safe house basement. Butcher pulled up the forum thread on the main screen, scrolled through the comments. Most were speculation. Some were conspiracy theories. A few were disturbingly accurate. Read over his shoulder. They're calling him a weapon. They're not wrong, Butcher said. No, but they're making him into a story. And stories spread. Frenchie leaned closer. This analyst, he has credibility. Enough. Butcher scanned the profile. Former employee, clean record. No axe to grind, except the obvious one. People trust him, or at least they trust him more than Vought. So what's the play? Asked. Butcher thought about it. About Guts sitting in that condemned building cleaning his sword like none of this mattered. About Vought scrambling to contain a narrative that was already slipping through their fingers. About Homelander, who was probably watching the same footage right now and getting angrier by the second. We amplify it, Butcher said. Huey blinked. What? We take this underground buzz and we push it into the mainstream, make it so big Vought can't scrub it fast enough. That's going to make them desperate. Good. Desperate means sloppy. Sloppy means they make mistakes. Shook his head. It also means they come at him harder. And us. They're coming anyway. Butcher closed the laptop. Better we control the field. How? We give the story legs. Find someone with reach. Someone who won't fold when Vaught's lawyers come knocking. Frenchie smiled. I know someone. Journalist, independent. She hates Vought almost as much as you do. Can she be trusted? She can be motivated. Then set it up tonight. The journalist ran a podcast called Accountability, which was code for corporate watchdog with a subscriber base Vought couldn't buy off. She met them in a diner at 11 p.m., wore a leather jacket, and had a recorder already running when Butcher sat down. You're late, she said. Traffic. Bullshit. She gestured to the empty booth. Your friend said you had something big. Bigger than big. I've heard that before. Butcher slid the drive across the table. Raw footage. Chain of custody intact. Timestamp verified. Vaught's been scrubbing this non-stop. We're giving you the original. The journalist picked up the drive, turned it over in her hands. What's on it? Proof that Vaught's lost control of a meta-human threat. One that kills Soups. One they can't contain. Her expression remained neutral, but her fingers tightened around the drive. Why give this to me? Because you have an audience Vought can't threaten. And because we want them off balance. You're using me as a weapon. We're using you as a megaphone. What you do with it is your choice. She studied him for a long moment, then pocketed the drive. Give me 48 hours. I'll need to verify the metadata and get corroboration. You've got 24. That's not enough time. It is if Vaught's lawyers are already drafting cease and desists. Butcher leaned back. Clock's ticking, for all of us. She left without another word. Butcher watched her go, pulled out his phone, sent a text to Frenchie. She took it. Now we wait. Vought Tower, 87th floor. Ashley's office resembled a war room. 3 monitors showed social media feeds. 2 more displayed internal damage reports. A 6th tracked media mentions in real time. All of them were flashing red. Ashley stood in front of them, phone pressed to her ear, nodding at words she wasn't really hearing. Yes. I understand. We're handling it. The voice on the other end belonged to someone from legal. They were talking about injunctions, cease and desists, strategies for suppressing independent media. Ashley wasn't listening anymore. She was watching the third monitor, the one tracking forum activity, watching the numbers climb. 47 downloads, then 60, then 90. "We need to get ahead of this," the voice said. "How?" Ashley's voice came out sharper than she intended. "Every time we take it down, it gets reposted. We can't scrub the internet fast enough. Then we change the narrative. To what? A threat, a terrorist, someone Homelander needs to stop." Ashley closed her eyes. "He's already asking questions? Then give him answers. Point him at the target. And if he escalates, then document it. Make him the hero. That's what we pay you for." The line went dead. Ashley set down the phone, stared at the monitors, at the numbers still climbing, at the story they were losing control of. Her office door opened without a knock. Homelander entered. No cape, no suit, just the underlayer and an expression that made Ashley's stomach drop. "I've been patient," he said. "I know. I've been waiting for you to tell me what this is. We're still gathering. I don't want gathering, I want answers." He moved closer. Not threatening, just present, just filling the space in a way that made the room feel smaller. "Who is he?" "We don't know." "Where did he come from? Legacy Division? Some kind of artifact retrieval. It went wrong." "Clearly." Homelander picked up a tablet from her desk, pulled up the footage, watched it once, twice. "He's strong." "Yes. Not V-strong. Different." "That's the assessment." Homelander set down the tablet. "I want to meet him." Ashley's throat went dry. "That's not a request, Ashley. I want to know what he is, and I want to know if he's a problem. We can send a team." "I don't need a team." Homelander smiled. It was the smile he used on camera, the one that never reached his eyes. "I'll handle this personally, quietly, before it becomes a bigger PR disaster than it already is. And if he resists, then I'll handle that too." He left. Ashley stood alone in her office, surrounded by monitors and metrics and strategies that meant nothing anymore. Because Homelander wasn't waiting for permission. He was already moving. The boys' safe house. 2 a.m. Butcher's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Vaught's mobilizing. Asset recovery team. Departure in 6 hours. Target warehouse district." He forwarded it to MM, then to Frenchie. Then he grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. MM caught him in the hallway. "Where are you going?" "To warn him. He can handle himself." "Maybe. But if Vaught's sending a team, they're sending more than rent-a-cops. And if they're desperate enough, they'll send Homelander." Butcher nodded. "Yeah, they will." MM grabbed his coat. "Then we go together." They drove in silence, through empty streets, past closed shops and sleeping neighborhoods. The city appeared peaceful at this hour, like nothing bad could happen here. They both knew better. The warehouse was dark when they arrived. No lights, no movement. Just the sword driven into the pavement outside the door. He'd planted it there himself. Butcher knocked. "It's us. Open up." Nothing. He knocked again. "We need to talk. Now." The door opened. Guts stood there wearing the armor. Not all of it, just the gauntlets and greaves. Enough to move, enough to fight. "They're coming," Butcher said. "I know." "How?" Guts gestured to the skyline, to the tower. "I can feel it. The door. It's calling. Frowned. Calling how? Like it wants to open again. That's not possible, Butcher said. Guts' expression held no shift. This whole place isn't possible, but I'm here anyway. Vaught's sending people. Maybe worse. Let them. You don't understand. If they send their top asset, then I'll deal with him too. Butcher studied Guts' face. Saw no fear there, no hesitation. Just the same flat certainty he'd seen in the footage. The kind that came from facing worse things and surviving. You're not worried, Butcher said. No. Why not? Guts picked up his sword, tested the weight. I've fought worse. They bleed. and Butcher exchanged a glance. Right then, Butcher said slowly. Suppose we should make sure you're not fighting them alone. Why? Because we've got a common enemy, and because if you go down, Vought wins, and that's not allowed. Guts considered this, then nodded once. When dawn, maybe sooner. Then we wait. They waited, and somewhere across the city, Homelander stood on a rooftop facing toward the warehouse district, listening to the faint pulse of a presence that shouldn't exist. A presence that held no fear of him. He smiled. Finally, dawn came with fog. It rolled in from the water thick and gray, turning the warehouse district into a maze of shadows and half-seen shapes. Good cover for an approach, bad visibility for an escape. Butcher stood at the window watching the street. Was on the roof with binoculars. Huey and Frenchie were positioning motion sensors at the perimeter. Basic early warning. Not enough to stop what was coming, but enough to buy seconds. Guts sat in the corner sharpening his sword. The sound of stone on metal filled the silence. Rhythmic, steady, like a heartbeat. You do that a lot, Butcher said. Guts didn't stop. It keeps an edge. That thing cuts through soups like paper. How much sharper does it need to be? Sharp enough. Butcher lit a cigarette, took a drag. You're not much for conversation. No. Fair enough. The radio on Butcher's belt crackled. MM's voice. Movement. East side. 3 vehicles. Black SUVs. Vought security plates. How many bodies? Can't tell through the fog. At least a dozen, maybe more. Butcher keyed the mic. Lethal load. Standard tactical. Rifles, body armor. No heavy weapons visible. So they're not trying to kill him. Not yet. Butcher turned to Guts. They're here for retrieval. Probably want you intact. Guts set down the whetstone, stood. The armor pieces shifted with him, joints moving without sound. They won't get that. You sure about this? Yes. Because once it starts, I know. The radio crackled again. They're dismounting, spreading out, professional formation. These aren't rent-a-cops. Butcher stubbed out his cigarette. Former military. Vought hires them for wet work. Extractions, asset recovery. Asset, Guts repeated. The word came out flat. That's what they think I am. That's what you are to them. Property. An investment that went rogue. Guts picked up his sword. I've been property before. Didn't take then either. The door rattled. A voice from outside. Professional. Calm. We know you're in there. We're not here to fight. Just to talk. Butcher raised an eyebrow. You believe that? No. Good instincts. The voice continued. We're authorized to offer terms, safe transport, medical evaluation, a conversation about your situation. That's all. Guts walked to the door, put his hand on the handle. Butcher moved beside him. You open that, they'll breach. I know. So what's the play? Give them a chance to leave. They won't. Then they chose. Guts opened the door. 12 men in tactical gear stood in a semicircle, rifles raised but not aimed. The one in front held his weapon across his chest. Safe position, negotiation posture. My name is Carson, he said. I'm contracted security. We're here to bring you in without incident. Guts said nothing. Carson gestured to his team. We don't want trouble. Neither do you. This can be simple. Turn around, Guts said. Leave. Can't do that. Then it won't be simple. Carson's expression tightened. Sir, we have authorization for force if necessary. But that's not our preference. Come with us. Answer some questions. If you're not a threat, you walk away. I'm not going anywhere with you. Then we have a problem. No. Guts took a step forward. The fog swirled around him. You do. Carson's hand shifted on his rifle, just slightly. Professional reflex. But his fingers stayed off the trigger. Last chance, he said. Same to you. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then Carson nodded to his team. The rifles came up. Guts moved first. Not fast like a soup. Fast like someone who'd spent a lifetime learning how to close distance before an enemy could react. The sword came around in a horizontal arc low to the ground edge, singing through fog. The nearest man's rifle fell in 2 pieces. So did the man holding it. Carson fired. Center mass. 3 rounds. The bullet sparked off the armor's breastplate. Guts didn't slow. The second swing took out 3 more. Clean cuts. No resistance. The kind of efficiency that came from practice, from repetition, from doing this so many times. It became reflex. Carson backed up, still firing. His team scattered. Some tried to flank. One pulled a grenade. Butchers shot him from the window. The grenade dropped, rolled. Everyone dove. The explosion was small, concussive, more flash than shrapnel. But in the confined space, it turned the fog into chaos. Shapes moving. Muzzle flashes, shouting. Guts walked through it. A man came at him with a baton. Reinforced steel. Rated for soup containment. The sword went through the baton, then through the man. Another man tried to tackle him from behind. Got a gauntleted fist to the jaw. Bones broke. He dropped. Carson was still standing, still firing. His rifle clicked empty. He dropped it. Drew a sidearm. Stay down, stay down, he said. Not to Guts, to his team. Fall back now. Long Guts stopped 10 feet away. Carson kept the pistol aimed. His hand was steady, professional to the end. You're making a mistake. I'm ending one? Vought doesn't forgive. They'll send more, worse. Let them. Carson's finger tightened on the trigger, then relaxed. He lowered the weapon. You just signed your own death warrant. Wouldn't be the first time. Carson looked at his team, at the bodies, at the men still breathing, crawling away through the fog. Then he looked back at Guts. You're not human, he said. No, but neither are the things you work for. Carson backed away, picked up a wounded man, dragged him toward the vehicles. The others followed, limping, bleeding, leaving their dead behind. Guts watched them go, then turned back to the warehouse. Butcher was waiting at the door. That was restrained. They had a choice. Most of them took it. Yes. MM climbed down from the roof. Huey and Frenchie emerged from cover. They all stared at the scene, at the bodies, at the fog still settling. Huey looked pale. Jesus. Not Jesus, Butcher said. Just practical. checked the dead. These were professionals. Vaught's going to escalate. They already are. Butcher pointed toward the skyline. Look. A figure was descending through the fog. Slowly, almost casually. Red and blue visible even through the gray. Cape trailing behind. Homelander landed 50 feet away. Touched down without sound. Straightened. Surveyed the scene with the kind of expression you'd use for a mild inconvenience. Well, he said. This is messy. Nobody moved. Homelander walked forward, stepped over a body without looking down, stopped 20 feet from Guts, close enough to talk, far enough to react. So you're the one causing problems, he said. Guts said nothing. Strong, silent type. I can respect that. Homelander smiled. It was the camera smile. Perfect teeth, no warmth. But you've been very rude, killing people, making Vought look bad. That's not acceptable. Still nothing. I'm going to give you one chance. Homelander's smile faded. Come with me. Right now. We'll sort this out like adults. Guts raised his sword. Homelander's eyes lit red. Just a glow. Just a warning. That's a mistake. You're in my way. No, you're in mine. The glow intensified. And I don't share space. The laser came faster than Butcher could shout a warning, faster than Huey could run, faster than anything except instinct. Guts moved. Not dodging, blocking. The sword came up edge first, angled, catching the beam and splitting it. Twin trails of heat carved through the warehouse wall behind him. Metal screamed. The air smelled like burning. Homelander blinked. The laser stopped. For the first time since landing, his expression showed genuine surprise. That's not possible, he said. Guts lowered the sword. Smoke rose from the blade's edge. The metal glowed faint red. Cooling. Yes, it is, Guts said. Homelander's surprise shifted to something else. Something darker. You just made this personal. It already was. The fog exploded as Homelander launched forward. Supersonic, fist cocked back. The kind of punch that could crater concrete. Guts braced. The impact sent a shockwave through the district. Windows shattered 3 blocks away. The ground cracked. Guts slid back 10 feet, boots dragging trenches in the pavement. But he stayed standing. Homelander stared at his fist, at the gauntlet that had caught it, at the man who shouldn't have been able to stop him. What are you? He said. Guts didn't answer, just swung. The sword came around fast. Homelander dodged, barely. The edge passed close enough to slice through his cape. Fabric fell away in 2 pieces. Homelander looked at the severed cape, then at Guts. Then he started laughing. Oh, he said. This is going to be fun. He came in again, faster this time. No holding back. No testing. The fight became chaos. Punch, block, swing, dodge. Neither giving ground, neither backing down. Butcher grabbed Huey. We need to move, now. We can't just leave him. We're not helping. We're targets. Move. They ran. Covering their retreat. Frenchie already in the van engine running. Behind them, the warehouse district was coming apart. Metal shrieking. Concrete exploding. 2 forces that shouldn't exist beating each other into the rubble. And somewhere above it all, a news helicopter was filming everything. The footage would be on every screen in the country within the hour. Raw, unedited, Undeniable. Vought couldn't spin this. The footage went live at 7:43 a.m. Not on Vaught's channels, not through their approved media partners. Just raw video from a traffic helicopter that happened to be in the area. The pilot had been doing a routine commute report when the warehouse district started tearing itself apart. He kept filming. The footage showed two figures, one in red and blue, moving faster than the camera could track. The other in dark armor, slower, but impossibly solid, taking hits that should have killed him and responding with a blade that cut through steel like mist. No commentary. No context. Just violence captured in shaky high definition. By 8 a.m., it had 3 million views. By 9, Vaught's PR team had issued a statement calling it an ongoing security incident involving an unauthorized meta-human actor. They promised details soon. By 10, the statement was buried under a flood of new uploads. Different angles, different phones. People filming from rooftops and office windows and street corners, all showing the same thing. Homelander fighting something he couldn't instantly kill. The narrative Vought had been trying to build, the terrorist, the threat, the problem Homelander would solve, collapsed in real time. Because Homelander wasn't winning. Ashley's office had become crisis command. 2 marketing directors, 3 PR specialists. Someone from legal who'd stopped introducing himself hours ago. All of them talking over each other, throwing out strategies that contradicted and canceled each other out. We spin it as a test. We can't spin a public brawl as a test. Then we call it a rogue soup. Make him the villain. He's not a soup. The internet already figured that out. Then what is he? Nobody had an answer. Ashley stood at the window, watching the city wake up to a morning where their most powerful hero had fought a man with a sword to a standstill, where invincibility had been questioned, where the illusion had cracked. Her phone rang. Private line. She answered. "We're pulling Homelander back," the voice said. No greeting, no preamble. One of the board members. She didn't remember which. They all sounded the same when they were panicking. "He's not going to accept that," Ashley said. "He doesn't have a choice. This footage is a disaster. Every second he's out there not winning makes us look weaker. Pulling him back makes us look afraid. We are afraid. But we don't broadcast it. Get him back to the tower, lock this down, and find out what the hell that thing is so we can kill it properly." The line went dead. Ashley set down the phone, turned to the room. "Everyone out." "We're not finished." "Yes, you are. Out now." They left. Ashley sat alone in the sudden silence, staring at the monitors, at the footage playing on repeat, at Homelander's face in the final frames before the camera lost focus. He wasn't angry in those frames. He was excited. The safe house was 30 miles outside the city. Abandoned farm, burned-out barn, wells that hadn't worked in decades. The kind of place nobody looked at twice because there was nothing to see. Butcher had found it 6 months ago. Set it up as a fallback. Emergency cash. Somewhere to disappear when the world got too hot. They were using it now. Was cleaning weapons. Huey was pacing. Frenchie was monitoring police scanners and news feeds, 3 laptops, open earbuds in. Butcher sat across from Guts, watching him work. The armor was off. All of it. Stacked in the corner like discarded shells. Guts wore a torn shirt and pants. His body was a catalog of old injuries. Scars layered over scars. Burns. Stab wounds. Things that should have killed him, but hadn't. He was checking the sword, running a cloth down the blade. The metal was unmarked, no chips, no warping. It had taken a direct laser strike and come away clean. "That's not normal steel," Butcher said. Guts didn't respond. "I've seen Vaught's metallurgy reports. Compound V-enhanced alloys, carbon nanotubes, materials that cost more than my life. None of them could do what that blade just did." "It's not steel." "Then what is it?" Guts set down the cloth. "It's killed enough to become something else." Butcher waited for elaboration. None came. He tried a different angle. "You blocked his laser." "Yes, that shouldn't be possible. But it happened." "How?" "Because I've seen worse." Guts picked up the blade again, tested the balance. "And because he fights like someone who's never had to." "Explain." "He's strong, fast, but he expects things to break. When they don't, he doesn't adapt. He just hits harder." "And you?" "I adapt." Frenchie pulled out his earbuds. "The news is calling you the swordsman. Very creative Americans." "They always are," said without looking up from his rifle. "Vaught's trying to spin, calling it a security response. But the footage is everywhere. They can't contain it." Butcher stood, crossed to the window, watched the empty road stretching toward the horizon. "They'll try something else then. Different angle." "What angle?" Huey asked. "They'll come at him through us. Trace the leak. Figure out who pushed the story. When they do, they'll find the podcaster," Frenchie said. "Yeah. Should we warn her?" "Already sent word. She's got protection. But Vaught plays rough when they're cornered." Set down the rifle. "So what's our move?" Butcher turned from the window. "We keep pushing. Make them panic. Panicked corporations make mistakes. Mistakes we can exploit." "To what end?" MM's voice carried an edge. "We keep escalating, people die. More than already have. People are already dying. Vaught's been killing them for years. We're just making it visible. That's not an answer." "It's the only one I've got." The room went quiet. Radio static. Wind outside. The distant sound of nothing happening. Guts broke the silence. "Where's the tower?" Everyone turned. "You mean Vaught Tower?" Butcher asked. "The one with the door, where the armor came from." "That's not..." Butcher paused, recalibrated. "The artifact came from a facility, sub-level 4, not the main tower." "Then that's where I need to go." "That's suicide. The place is a fortress. Security, surveillance, probably soups on standby. I've been in fortresses before. Not like this." Guts stood. The movement was smooth despite the injuries, despite the fight he'd just walked away from. "The door opened once. It can open again. I need to find what controls it. And if you can't, then I stay here until I die or until something worse comes through." He picked up the armor's breastplate, examined the dents where Homelander's fists had connected. "I'd rather not wait." Butcher watched him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Right. Then we need a plan, and we need help." "What kind of help?" "The kind that gets us inside Vaught's black site without triggering every alarm they've got." Stood. "You're serious about this?" "Dead serious." "Then we need intel, building plans, security rotations, access codes." "I've got a source, Huss," Butcher said. "Former Vaughtite. He owes me." "Can he be trusted?" "No, but he can be leveraged." Huey stopped pacing. Even with intel, we're talking about breaking into a corporate research facility. That's federal charges, multiple felonies. If we get caught, we don't get caught. Butcher pulled out his phone, started typing. And if we do, we're already so far past legal, it doesn't matter. Vought wants us dead anyway. Might as well give them a reason. Frenchie closed his laptops. When do we move? 48 hours. Need time to prep, map the approach, figure out what we're walking into. And him, gestured to Guts. He's the target. The second he gets close to that building, they'll know. That's the point. Butcher's expression shifted, something cold settling into place. We use him as bait, draw their attention. While they're focused on the threat outside, we slip in through the back. Guts tested the armor's fit. The metal settled against his shoulders like it remembered. And if they send more than I can handle, then you do what you do best. Survive long enough for us to finish. How long? 20 minutes, maybe less. Guts considered this, then nodded. That works. Somewhere in Vought Tower, in an office with no windows and 3 separate secure lines, a meeting was taking place. 6 people. No names, just titles. Director of Meta-Human Affairs, Head of Security Operations, Chief Risk Officer, and 3 others whose roles were classified even internally. They were discussing options. We send Noir, one said. Noir is good for stealth. This needs overwhelming force. Then we send a team, multiple soups, coordinated strike. And if he kills them, he won't kill all of them. You willing to bet on that? Silence. The director spoke. We're treating this tactically. That's a mistake. This isn't a tactical problem, it's a perception problem. Explain. Homelander fought him to a draw. The footage is everywhere. People saw vulnerability. That's the damage. Killing the swordsman now just makes him a martyr. So what do you propose? We don't kill him. We discredit him. Make him the villain. Give people a reason to fear him instead of admire him. How? The director leaned forward. We let him come to us. And when he does, we make sure every camera in the city captures what happens next. The intel came through at midnight. Butcher's contact delivered it on a thumb drive, handed over in a parking garage 3 levels underground. No conversation. Just an exchange. Money for data. The drive contained building schematics, security protocols, shift rotations, access codes that would expire in 72 hours. And one other thing. A file marked Legacy Disposal Protocol. Butcher opened it in the safe house, everyone crowded around the laptop. The document was heavily redacted. Black bars covered most of the text, but enough remained to paint a picture. They've got a procedure, Butcher said, for getting rid of things they can't control. Leaned closer. Define getting rid of. Looks like they open a controlled rift. Dump whatever they want gone into it. Then seal it. They're using the same thing that brought him here as a trash chute, Huey said. Essentially. Guts stood behind them, arms crossed. Can they control it? According to this, they think they can. Frequency modulation. Targeted aperture. Technical jargon that boils down to they point it where they want and hope nothing comes back through. Has it worked before? Butcher scrolled through the file. 3 tests, 2 successful disposals, 1 partial failure. What's a partial failure? They lost the containment room, had to seal off that entire section of sub-level 4. Frenchie whistled. And they still use this technology. They authorized it again 2 days ago. Butcher pulled up a dated memo. Emergency protocols for immediate threat neutralization. They're planning to dump him through a rift, said. Or try to. Guts's expression hardened. Let them try. You understand what that means? Butcher turned to face him. They'll bait you in, spring the trap, and if it works, you're not dead. You're just gone, somewhere else, somewhere worse. I've been worse places. Have you? Guts didn't answer, just stared at the screen, at the redacted protocols and technical specifications. When do we move? Tomorrow night. Security rotation changes at 2200. Gives us a window. How long time? 15 minutes before someone notices the gaps. Another 10 before they lock down. 25 minutes total. To get in, find the rift controls and either destroy them or get you through. Yes. Shook his head. That's not enough time. It's what we have. And if we can't destroy the controls, then we improvise. That's not a plan. It's the best one we've got. The next day dragged. They prepped in silence, checking gear, reviewing routes, going over the schematic until everyone could navigate it blind. Guts spent most of the time away from the group, sitting outside, watching the empty fields. The armor sat beside him inert, but present. Always present. Huey found him there around sunset. Can I ask you something? Huey said. Guts didn't turn. Yes. Why are you helping us? I mean, you could just leave. Find somewhere to hide until you figure out the door thing on your own. I could. But you're not. No. Huey waited. When no explanation came, he tried again. Is it because Vought's after you? Because we're enemies of your enemy? Partly. What's the other part? Guts finally turned. His single eye caught the fading light. I saw what happened. In the alley. That woman. The one the soup attacked? Yes. What about her? She was helpless. He was going to hurt her because he could. Because no one would stop him. Guts looked back at the fields. I've seen that before. Many times. Different worlds, same story. And you can't just walk away from it. No. Huey sat down beside him. That's more than most people would do. Most people don't carry this. Guts gestured to the armor. I don't think it's about the armor. Maybe not. They sat in silence for a while, watching the sun drop below the horizon, painting everything in shades of orange and red. You think we'll make it? Huey asked. Through tomorrow? Yeah. Some of us will. That's not exactly reassuring. It's honest. Huey laughed, bitter, short. Yeah, I guess it is. They moved at 21:30. 2 vehicles. Butcher and Huey in the first, Frenchie and Guts in the second. Staggered departure. Different routes, converging on the facility from opposite directions. The black site sat in an industrial zone, nondescript warehouse exterior, unmarked entrance. The kind of building that blended into its surroundings because it was designed to be forgotten. They parked 3 blocks away. Butcher checked his watch. 10 minutes to breach. Everyone clear on their rolls. Nods all around. Frenchie, you're on security feeds. Loop the cameras. Give us a clean corridor. Oui. Your rear guard. Anyone comes down that hallway behind us, you stop them. Got it. Huey, you're with me. We find the rift controls, map the room, plant charges if we need to blow it. And if we can't blow it, we'll cross that bridge when we're on fire. Guts checked his armor, every piece locked in place. The sword rested against his shoulder. And me? You're the distraction. Front entrance. Make noise. Draw every guard they've got. Keep them focused on you while we slip in through the service entrance. How much noise? Enough that they call for backup. Not enough that they evacuate. That's a narrow margin. You'll manage. Guts walked toward the building, stopped at the corner, turned back. If I don't make it out, you'll make it. If I don't, the woman from the alley, make sure she's safe. Butcher met his gaze. You have my word. Guts nodded, then rounded the corner and disappeared into shadow. Butcher counted to 60, then keyed his radio. Frenchie, we're moving. The front entrance had 2 guards. Standard security, not soups, just trained personnel with sidearms and protocols. They saw Guts coming. One reached for his radio. The other raised his weapon. Stop right there. This is private property. You need to... The sword came around. Both guards dropped. Guts didn't slow. Just walked through the doors, into the reception area. Sterile lighting, corporate neutrality, a desk with no one behind it. Alarms started shrieking, automated voice, calm, professional. Security breach detected. All personnel report to designated stations. Lockdown protocols in effect. Heavy doors sealed at both ends of the corridor. Emergency lighting kicked in, red and harsh. Guts kept walking. The first response team came from the left. 6 men, body armor, rifles. They opened fire the moment they had line of sight. Bullets sparked off metal, off stone, off the walls behind him. Guts closed the distance. 3 swings, 6 bodies. The corridor painted red. He moved deeper into the facility, following the pull. That same sensation from before. The door, the rift, calling to him like a wound that wouldn't close. Another team. More gunfire, more bodies. Then something different. A figure in black tactical gear, moving faster than the others. Not soup fast, just trained, efficient. Black noir. He came in low, silent, blade in each hand, aiming for joints, for gaps in the armor. Guts twisted. Caught one blade on his gauntlet, deflected the other with his sword. Noir rolled, came up behind him, slashed at the armor's back. The blade scraped, found no purchase. The armor was too thick, too old, too used to being tested. Guts turned, swung. Noir dodged, backed into a wider space, a junction where 3 corridors met. They circled each other. Noir attacked again, faster this time. A combination, high, low, faint, real strike. Guts blocked most of it, took 1 hit to the shoulder. The blade skittered off, left a scratch in the metal. Nothing more, he countered. Horizontal slash. Noir ducked under it. Came up inside Guts's guard. Mistake. Guts dropped the sword, grabbed Noir by the throat with one gauntleted hand, lifted. Noir's hands came up, pried at the grip. His knives clattered to the floor. For 5 seconds, Guts just held him there, studying the mask, the blank expression, the emptiness. Then he spoke. You're a tool, just like the others. Noir couldn't respond, couldn't breathe. But you're still a person underneath. Guts threw him, not gently. Noir hit the wall hard, slid down, didn't get up immediately. Stay down, Guts said. I don't want to kill you. Noir rose anyway, slower now, 1 hand on the wall for balance. Guts picked up his sword. Then you choose this. Noir came at him again. This time Guts didn't hold back. The berserker armor responded. Joints locked, posture dropped, the helmet's faceplate shifted. Something ancient and hungry waking up. The next exchange lasted 3 seconds. Noir's tactical advantage disappeared. His speed meant nothing against someone who didn't feel pain. Who didn't slow when injured. Who just kept coming. One of Noir's arms broke. Then the other. He collapsed. Guts stood over him. The armor was pulling, urging him to finish it, to keep going, to not stop until there was nothing left. He fought it, forced himself to step back, to breathe, to remember where he was. Noir wasn't moving, still breathing, but done. Guts turned away, continued toward the pull. Behind him, Noir stayed on the ground, broken but alive. The first person Guts had spared since arriving in this world. Butcher and Huey reached the control room. Frenchie's voice crackled over the radio. "You have company. 6 guards heading your way. 2 minutes. Can you stall them? I can seal doors. Give you maybe 3 minutes total. Do it." MM's voice came through. "I've got movement at the rear entrance. They're trying to flank. Hold them. How long? As long as you can." Huey stared at the control panel. Dozens of readouts, frequency modulators, aperture controls, technical specifications that meant nothing to him. "I don't know what any of this does." "Then we blow it." Butcher pulled out an explosive charge, started setting it against the main console. "Wait." Huey pointed at a screen. "That's a live feed. The rift chamber." Butcher looked. The screen showed a large room, empty except for a raised platform in the center, and above it a distortion in the air, like heat shimmer, like reality forgetting how to hold together. "That's it," Butcher said. "That's the door. Can we control it?" "I don't." The door behind them exploded inward. Not blown, torn, metal shrieking, hinges ripped from the wall. Homelander walked through. No cape, no smile, just cold focus. "Found you," he said. Homelander didn't rush. He stepped into the control room like he owned it, like he owned everything in it. His eyes swept across the equipment. The monitors, Butcher and Huey frozen by the console. "You boys are busy," he said. Butcher's hand stayed on the detonator. "We're leaving." "No, you're not." Homelander gestured to the explosive charge. "And if you trigger that, you'll kill yourselves before you kill me. So let's skip the theatrics. We don't negotiate with fascists. Good thing I'm not here to negotiate." Homelander moved closer, slow, deliberate. "I'm here to clean up a mess. Several messes, actually. You, your little terrorist cell, and the man with the sword who thinks he can challenge me." "He already did challenge you," Huey said. His voice shook, but held. The whole world saw it. Homelander's expression didn't change. They saw a fight, not an ending. Endings matter, Huey. That's what people remember. So you came here to write one. I came here to finish what should have been finished the moment you leaked that footage. He stopped 10 feet away. "Where is he?" Butcher said nothing. "The swordsman. I know he's here. I can hear the alarms, smell the blood in the corridors. He's carving through security right now, isn't he?" Still nothing. Homelander's eyes began to glow. Faint red, warning light. "I'm trying to be reasonable, trying to give you a chance to cooperate. But if you make me drag it out of you," MM's voice burst through the radio. "Butcher, we've got a situation. South Corridor, multiple hostiles, soups, at least 3. The radio cut to static. Homelander's head tilted slightly. "Sounds like your friend is busy." "Call them off," Butcher said. "Why would I do that?" "Because if you don't, this gets uglier than it needs to be." "It's already ugly. You made it ugly when you decided to play revolutionary." Homelander took another step. "Now I'm ending it. Starting with you." The laser burned through the console. Not at Butcher. At the equipment. Melting circuits, destroying controls. The monitors went dark. Sparks erupted from severed wiring. Huey dove left. Butcher went right. The detonator clattered to the floor. Homelander picked it up. Examined it. Crude, but effective, I suppose. He crushed it in his fist. Metal crumpled. Electronics sparked once and died. Not anymore. Butcher scrambled for the door. Homelander moved faster, appeared in the doorway, blocking the exit. Running just delays the inevitable. Then let's delay it. Butcher pulled a pistol, fired, center mass, 5 shots. The bullets flattened against Homelander's chest, fell to the ground. Useless. Really? Homelander shook his head. "You've been doing this for years. You know that doesn't work." "Had to try." "Had to try." Homelander laughed. Short, mirthless. "That's what you people always say, right before you fail." He reached for Butcher's throat. The wall exploded. Not the door. The wall. Concrete and rebar erupting inward. Dust and debris filling the air. Guts stepped through the breach. Homelander turned. His hand still extended. Caught between targets. "You," he said. Guts didn't respond. Just raised his sword. "I was hoping you'd show up." Homelander released Butcher, stepped away from the doorway, giving himself space. "Now we can finish this properly." "Get out," Guts said. Not to Homelander, to Butcher and Huey. "Now." They ran. Through the breach, into the corridor. Behind them the room lit up red as lasers carved through where they'd been standing. The fight spilled into the hallway. Homelander pressed the attack. Fast, brutal, no holding back. Every punch designed to kill, every laser burst aimed to maim. Guts absorbed it, blocked what he could, took what he couldn't. The armor buckled in places, cracked in others, but held. He swung back, horizontal, vertical, diagonal. Each strike aimed at exposed flesh, at joints, at anywhere the sword might find purchase. Homelander dodged most of them. The ones he didn't dodge, he blocked with his forearms. The blade sparked against his skin, left shallow cuts, nothing deep enough to matter. "You're strong," Homelander said between exchanges. "I'll give you that. But strength isn't enough." Guts didn't waste breath on words, just kept pressing. They crashed through another wall, into a lab. Equipment shattered. Tables overturned. Chemical storage units ruptured, spilling contents across the floor. Homelander grabbed a steel table, threw it. Guts cut it in half mid-flight. Both pieces crashed past him. "You're good with that sword," Homelander said. "But what happens when I take it away?" He came in fast. Grabbed the blade with both hands, tried to wrench it free. The metal cut into his palms. Blood welled up. First time he'd bled in this fight. Homelander's expression shifted. Surprise, then pain. Then anger. He released the blade, backed off. His hands healed almost instantly, but the blood remained. Evidence. "What is that thing made of?" Guts swung again. Homelander dodged. Barely. "Fine." Homelander's eyes ignited fully. "No more games." The laser came at full power, sustained burst, the kind that could cut through reinforced steel, Guts raised the sword, caught the beam, edge on, split it. But this time, Homelander kept firing, pushing, pouring energy into the attack. The blade began to glow, red, then orange, the metal screaming under the thermal load. Guts' arms shook, the armor's joints locked, bracing him. But even that had limits. The laser stopped. Homelander was breathing hard. First time he'd shown exertion. You can't keep blocking forever. Guts lowered the sword. The blade was still glowing, cooling slowly. Neither can you. I don't need to. I just need to outlast you. Then try. They clashed again, faster now, more desperate, both feeling the strain, both refusing to acknowledge it. The corridor behind them filled with smoke. Sprinklers activated, water mixing with debris and blood. Neither of them noticed. Butcher and Huey found MM in the south corridor. He was pinned down, 3 soups advancing on his position. Standard Vought roster, enhanced strength, basic durability, nothing exotic. But 3 against 1 was still bad math. Butcher came in from the side, dropped the first soup with a shot to the knee, not lethal, just mobility kill. The soup went down. Huey hit him with a baton, hard. Repeated strikes until he stopped moving. MM took out the second. Center mass. The soup's armor held. He charged. MM sidestepped. Let him crash into the wall. Followed up with a combat knife. Found a gap in the armor. Ended it. The third soup ran. Let him go, Butcher said. We need to find the rift chamber. What about the control room? Homelander destroyed it. So we can't control the door. Not remotely. But the rift's still open. We find it, we can use it. For what? Escape route. Last resort. Anything's better than staying here. They moved deeper into the facility, following the schematic, following the sound of destruction echoing from where Guts and Homelander were still tearing each other apart. The rift chamber was 2 levels down, large reinforced doors, warning signs, hazard markers. Frenchie was already there, tablet in hand, bypassing the locks. How'd you get here? Butcher asked. Service elevator. Very boring. You fought our way. More exciting. The door lock clicked. But mine worked faster. They entered the chamber. It was exactly as the monitor had shown. Large room, empty. Platform in the center with a distortion above it. Heat shimmer, reality bending. But something was wrong. The distortion was growing, not fast, but steady, like something was pushing from the other side. That's not supposed to happen, Huey said. No, Frenchie agreed. It is not. MM approached the platform, examined the control panel at its base. Frequency's unstable. It's been running too long without regulation. Can you stabilize it? Maybe. If I had time. How much time? More than we have. The distortion pulsed, grew larger. The air around it began to frost. Temperature dropping fast. Something moved on the other side. Shadow. Shape. Indistinct. We need to shut this down, MM said. We can't, Butcher replied. Not without the main controls, and Homelander melted those. Then what do we do? Before anyone could answer, the wall beside them buckled, cracked, exploded inward. Guts and Homelander crashed through, still fighting, neither giving ground. They hit the floor, rolled, separated. Homelander saw the rift. His eyes widened. What did you do? Nothing, Butcher said. Your people did this. Shut it down. Can't. You destroyed the controls. Homelander's expression went cold. Then we're all in danger. Now you care about danger. That's not a doorway. That's a wound. Homelander pointed at the growing distortion, and something's trying to come through. As if responding to his words, the distortion pulsed again, larger now, almost twice its original size. The shadow on the other side became clearer. Multiple shapes, moving, pressing against the barrier between worlds. "Get back," Guts said. He was bleeding. Multiple cuts, burns where the laser had found gaps in the armor. But he was standing, moving toward the platform. "Everyone get back." "What are you doing?" Butcher asked. "What I came here to do. That thing's not stable. You go through now, you might not survive the crossing. I've survived worse crossings. You don't know that." "No." Guts looked at the rift, at the shapes moving behind it. "But staying here means waiting for whatever that is to come through, and I don't think any of us want to meet it." Homelander moved toward the platform. "If we can't shut it down, we need to collapse it. Overload the frequency. Force it closed." "That'll blow the entire chamber," Frenchie said. "Better than the alternative." MM pulled Butcher aside. "We need to decide. Now." The rift pulsed again, much larger. The shapes were almost visible now. Armor, weapons, things that looked like soldiers but weren't quite right. Whatever was on the other side wanted in, and the barrier was failing. The decision made itself. Guts stepped onto the platform. The rift pulsed above him, cold radiating outward, frost forming on metal surfaces, on the floor, on his armor. "Wait," Butcher said. "If you go through now, I know the risks." "Do you?" Homelander moved closer, not threatening, just present. "That thing's unstable. It could tear you apart mid-transit, scatter you across dimensions, or drop you somewhere worse than here." "Everywhere's worse than somewhere." Guts raised his sword. "And if I don't go, those things come through. Then everyone here dies." The shapes on the other side were clearer now. Figures in twisted armor, carrying weapons that leaked darkness, their movements jerky, wrong, like bodies being operated by something that didn't understand how flesh worked. Huey's voice came out small. "What are those apostles?" Guts said. "Or something like them." "What's an apostle?" "A human who stopped being human, gave up everything to become a monster." The rift pulsed again. One of the figures pressed closer. Its hand touched the barrier. The distortion rippled, weakened. MM raised his rifle. "How long until they break through?" Frenchie checked his tablet. "Frequency's collapsing. 2 minutes, maybe less." "Then we collapse it first," Homelander said. "Overload the system. Force closure." "That kills him." Butcher gestured to Guts. "He's on the platform when it blows. He goes with it." "That's his choice." "Is it?" Homelander turned to Guts. "You understand what I'm suggesting?" "Yes. And do it. Just like that. I came here to go through. This way or broken into pieces. Either works." Homelander studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Frenchie, can you overload it? We reverse the polarity, force the frequency beyond safe parameters. The cascade will, how long? 30 seconds once I start, then catastrophic failure. Do it." "Wait," Huey stepped forward. "We're just going to kill him." "He's already dead," Homelander said. "He just hasn't stopped moving yet." "That's not... it's accurate." Guts looked at Huey. his single eye steady, calm. I've been dead for years. Just carried the corpse around because I wasn't finished. Are you finished now? No. But I'm close enough. The rift pulsed harder. The figures on the other side began pushing through. Arms first, weapons, the barrier screaming under the strain. 30 seconds, Guts said to Frenchie. Make it count. Frenchie's hands moved across the tablet. Beginning overload sequence, 29, 28. The platform beneath Guts began to shake. Energy building. The rift expanding and contracting, fighting itself. Homelander backed toward the door. Everyone out. When this goes, it'll take the whole chamber. Butcher didn't move. We're leaving him. We're surviving him. There's a difference. Butcher. Guts' voice cut through. Go. You sure about this? No, but do it anyway. Butcher held his gaze for 3 seconds, then nodded. Right then, don't die, stupid. I'll try. They ran. Butcher, Huey, Frenchie still counting. 15, 14. Homelander lingered in the doorway. For what it's worth, you fought well. So did you. But I'm walking away. That's the difference between us. Homelander's expression shifted. Something almost like respect. What is? You fight to win. I fight to protect. Guts turned back to the rift. Winning's optional. Homelander left. The chamber was empty except for Guts and the rift and the things trying to claw through. 10, 9. The platform's vibration intensified, hairline cracks spreading across the metal. The rift growing unstable, opening wider, closing tighter, oscillating. One of the apostle things forced its arm through, reached for Guts, clawed fingers extending. He cut the arm off. It fell, writhed, dissolved into black smoke. 5, 4. The rift screamed, not metaphorically, actual sound, air tearing, reality protesting. Guts stood in the center, armor locked, sword raised, waiting for the end or the beginning, or whatever came next. 2, 1. The platform exploded, not outward, inward. All that built-up energy collapsing into a single point. The rift compressed, smaller, tighter, a pinprick of impossible density. Then it reversed. Expansion, catastrophic, uncontrolled. The rift tore open, wide enough to swallow the entire chamber, wide enough to pull everything toward it. Air, debris, light, and Guts. He didn't fight it. Just let the pull take him, sword in hand, armor intact, one last look at the world he was leaving. Then he was gone. The rift collapsed. Violent, final. The chamber imploded, walls crumbling, ceiling falling, everything drawn into the space where the rift had been. Then, nothing. Silence. The chamber was gone. Just a crater filled with rubble and twisted metal. No body. No blood. No evidence anyone had been there at all. 4 blocks away, the group stopped running. Butcher leaned against a wall, breathing hard. Did it work? Frenchie checked his tablet. The rift's gone, collapsed completely. Whatever was trying to come through, didn't. And him? No readings, no energy signature. He's either dead or somewhere else. Sat on the curb. So we don't know. No, we don't. Huey stared back toward the facility, smoke rising from the crater. Emergency vehicles already responding, sirens wailing. He saved us. He saved everyone, Butcher said, and Vought will spin it as a terrorist incident. Can they? After everything that went public? They'll try. Question is whether anyone believes them anymore. Homelander descended from above, landed 20 feet away. No aggression, just presence. You're still alive, he said. Disappointed, Butcher replied. No, surprised. Homelander looked toward the facility. Toward the destruction. He really did it. Went through knowing he might not survive. He didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. He made his. Homelander turned back. And now you have yours. What choice? Walk away, disappear, stop causing problems, or keep pushing and see how it ends. That a threat? It's advice. From someone who's tired of cleaning up messes. Homelander's eyes began to glow. Faint, warning. Next time you come at Vought, you'd better be ready to finish it. Because I won't show restraint again. You call that restraint? I call it professional courtesy. You helped contain a threat. I'm acknowledging that. But the debt's paid. The glow faded. We're done here. He launched skyward, disappeared into the night. The group sat in silence for a long time. Finally, MM spoke. What now? Now, Butcher pulled out a cigarette, lit it. Now we wait, see what shakes out. And if Vought comes after us? They will, eventually. But not tonight.
Yeah.
How do you know? Because tonight they've got bigger problems. Butcher gestured to the smoke, to the emergency response, to the news helicopters circling overhead. They lost a facility, lost control of a narrative, and the whole world's watching them scramble. That doesn't protect us long term. No, but it buys us time. Butcher took a drag. And time's all we ever have anyway. Vought Tower, 87th floor, emergency session. Ashley stood before the board. Virtual attendance. 6 faces on screens, all of them angry. Explain, one said. No preamble, just demand. The facility experienced a catastrophic rift collapse. Asset was neutralized, threat contained. At what cost? Total loss of legacy sub-level 4. Estimated damages exceeding 200 million. Media coverage extensive, narrative control minimal. Minimal, another voice, sharper. It's non-existent. We've got footage of Homelander fighting a man with a sword. Footage of a black ops site exploding. Footage of emergency crews pulling bodies from rubble. How do we spin this? We don't spin it. We own it. Silence. Then explain. Ashley pulled up a slide. We position Homelander as the hero who prevented a dimensional threat. Emphasize the danger, the sacrifice, the necessity of Vought's protective infrastructure. The public saw him struggle. The public saw him persevere. That's the angle. He didn't quit, didn't run. He stayed and fought until the threat was neutralized. And the swordsman, collateral damage, an unwitting pawn in a larger conspiracy. We're investigating origins, promising answers soon. Do we have answers? No. But we have time to manufacture them. One of the faces on screen leaned forward. This better work, Ashley. Because if it doesn't, you're the one explaining to shareholders why their stock dropped 12% overnight. It'll work. It has to. The screens went dark. Ashley stood alone in the conference room, surrounded by silence and the weight of a lie she was about to sell. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. The footage isn't going away, and neither are we. She deleted it, sat down, stared at the blank screens, and for the first time in her career, she wondered if Vought could actually lose. Somewhere else, somewhere cold. Guts opened his eye. Gray sky, gray ground, gray everything. He was lying on stone, rough, cold. The armor was still there, still intact. The sword beside him. He sat up slowly. Inventory check. Ribs broken, left arm dislocated, burns across his back where the rift had caught him. But alive. He stood, surveyed his surroundings. Ruins. Ancient. No signs of life. Just wind and dust and the weight of ages pressing down. This wasn't where he'd started, but it was familiar. Too familiar. He picked up his sword, started walking. Behind him the sky flickered, just once. A pulse of something that might have been a rift trying to stabilize, trying to hold. Then it faded, and Guts kept walking. Because that's what he did. That's all he'd ever done. The broadcast went live at 9 p.m. Not on Vaught's networks. Not through their approved channels. The independent podcast, the one that had started the avalanche. The journalist sat in frame. No makeup, no production value. Just her and a camera and the raw file Butcher had given her weeks ago. The one that had sparked everything. "My name doesn't matter," she said. "What matters is what I'm about to show you, and what it means." She played the footage, all of it. Not just the fight. The leak from the forum, the ex-Vought analyst's testimony, the building schematics, the disposal protocols, everything. Vought International has spent the last 72 hours telling you this was a security incident, a rogue meta-human, a threat they contained. She paused, let the footage speak. They're lying. The screen filled with documentation, redacted files, memos, authorization codes, all the pieces Butcher's contact had provided, all the evidence of what Vought had been doing in that facility. This wasn't security. This was disposal. They opened doorways to other dimensions and used them as landfills, for experiments gone wrong, for assets they couldn't control, for people who knew too much. She leaned forward, and when one of those assets escaped, when it fought back, when it showed the world that Vaught's invincible heroes could bleed, they tried to bury it, tried to spin it, tried to make you forget what you saw. The footage shifted. Phone videos from the warehouse district, Homelander and Guts tearing through buildings, both bleeding, both struggling. But you can't forget this. You can't unsee it, and neither can they. She held up a drive. I have more. Names, dates, experiments. If anything happens to me, if Vought tries to silence this, everything goes public. Every file, every secret, every body they've buried. The camera held on her face. They want you to believe they're protecting you, that their power makes you safe. But power without accountability isn't protection. It's tyranny. She reached forward. The screen went black. And tyranny ends when people stop being afraid. The response was immediate. Social media exploded. Not just shares, analysis, breakdowns, people cross-referencing the documents with public records, finding connections, finding patterns. By midnight, 3 senators had called for investigations. By morning, the stock had dropped another 8%. Vaught's PR team scrambled, issued statements, denied allegations, threatened lawsuits. Nobody cared. The narrative had shifted. Not completely, not irreversibly, but enough. Enough that people were asking questions. Enough that the unanswers weren't coming fast enough. Enough that the cracks were showing. Ashley's resignation was accepted at 6 a.m. No press conference, no explanation, just an internal memo. Pursuing other opportunities, effective immediately. She cleared her desk in 20 minutes. Personal effects in a box, photos, awards, the accumulated debris of a career built on managing disasters. Her assistant knocked. "They want your access badge." Ashley handed it over. "Tell them they can keep the office too." "Where will you go?" "Somewhere without cameras." She walked out. Past cubicles, past conference rooms, past the glass walls that let everyone see everything and no one see anything that mattered. The elevator ride down was silent. 87 floors. Enough time to think about all the things she'd spun, all the truths she'd buried, all the times she'd chosen corporate survival over human decency. The doors opened. Ground floor. Exit ahead. She walked through it without looking back. Outside, the city moved, indifferent, uncaring. People going to work, living their lives, unaware that the building behind her was quietly collapsing from the inside. Or maybe they were aware. Maybe they just didn't care anymore. Ashley hailed a cab, got in, gave an address she'd memorized but never used. A safe house, a backup plan. The kind every fixer kept for when the music stopped and there were no chairs left. The cab pulled away. Behind her, Vought Tower stood, gleaming, untouchable, permanent. But permanence was an illusion. She'd learned that. Everything fell, eventually. Butcher watched the broadcast from a motel room in Pennsylvania. Cheap television, static interference. But the message came through clear enough. sat in the chair by the window. "She did it. Yeah. You think it'll stick? Some of it, enough." Butcher lit a cigarette. "Vaught's got resources, lawyers, politicians. They'll weather this, but they'll bleed doing it." "Is that enough?" "It's a start." Huey lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. "What about him, Guts? You think he made it? Don't know. But you hope." Butcher didn't answer immediately, just smoked. Watched the news cycle through reactions. Politicians posturing, experts analyzing, the machine trying to process something it couldn't categorize. "Yeah," he said finally. "I hope." Frenchie emerged from the bathroom. "The podcaster. She has backup plans, yes, multiple. Good, because Vought will come for her. Let them try. She's smart, prepared, and she's got insurance. Insurance can be stolen. Not this kind. Dead man's switch, automated release. If she doesn't check in every 72 hours, everything dumps. All of it, no stopping it." Nodded approval. "Clever." "Necessary." The television showed footage of Vought Tower, protesters outside. Small crowd, but growing. Signs demanding accountability, investigation, truth. Butcher stubbed out his cigarette. "We should move. Can't stay in one place too long." "Where to?" "South, somewhere quiet. Let the dust settle. And then we see what's left. See if the world learned anything." They packed in silence. Efficient. Practiced. The routine of people who'd run before and would run again. The motel door closed behind them. The television kept playing. News cycle continuing. The story already being replaced by newer stories. Fresher scandals. But some stories don't die. They just wait. Buried. Growing. Until someone digs them up again. Vought Tower. Executive floor. private office. Homelander stood at the window, hands behind his back, watching the protesters below, tiny figures with tiny signs and tiny voices. A knock at the door. He didn't turn. "Come in." A woman entered, older, severe, director of strategic operations. "We need to discuss next steps." "There are no next steps, just clean up. The board wants a response, public, strong. The board wants me to smile for cameras and pretend nothing happened. That's not a response. That's theater. Theater is our business." "Not anymore." Homelander turned. His eyes were calm, cold. "Something changed. You feel it?" "Feel what?" "The shift. People used to look at me and see a god. Now they look at me and see someone who can bleed." "You barely bled." The footage showed me struggling, fighting." "That's enough." The illusion cracked. The director crossed her arms. "So, what do you propose?" "Nothing. Let them protest. Let them investigate. Let them feel like they won something. That's surrender. That's patience." Homelander walked back to the window. "They'll get tired. They always do. And when they do, when they stop paying attention, we go back to being what we've always been." Which is necessary. The director left. Homelander remained at the window, watching the crowd, thinking about the man with the sword, about the fight that should have been simple and wasn't, about the moment when his fist had connected and the target hadn't fallen. That bothered him, not the struggle. He'd struggled before, briefly, against threats designed to test him. But those threats were part of the plan. Controlled? Manufactured. Guts wasn't manufactured, wasn't part of any plan. He was chaos, unpredictable, real. And real threats were dangerous. Not because they could kill you, but because they proved you could be killed. Homelander's reflection stared back from the glass. Perfect, unblemished, invincible, but reflections lie. He knew that now. 3 months later. An apartment in Seattle. A woman sat at her laptop, editing audio for the next podcast episode. Coffee cold, deadline approaching. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. But something made her answer. "Hello?" Static. Then a voice, rough, distant, like it was traveling through something unstable. "Is this the journalist?" She sat up straighter. "Who is this?" "Someone who listened to your broadcast. Needed to know if it mattered." "Did it?" "Yes, some things broke, some things held. But the cracks are there. That's enough." "Who are you?" Silence. Then, "No one important. Just someone who fought the same fight from a different angle." "Are you safe?" A sound that might have been a laugh. "No. But I'm alive. That's more than I expected." "Will you come back?" "No. The door closed. Can't be opened again. At least not from my side." "Then why call?" "To say thank you. You gave the story a voice, made it matter. That's rare." The line crackled, interference building. "Wait," she said. "I need to know. Was it worth it? Everything you went through?" The voice came back faint, breaking up. "Ask me again when everyone's safe. Until then, keep pushing." The line went dead. She stared at the phone, tried to trace the call. Unknown origin. Bounced through too many relays. Impossible to track. But she saved the recording, added it to her files. Insurance, evidence, proof. that somewhere out there someone was still fighting, somewhere cold, somewhere gray. Guts stood at the edge of a cliff. Behind him, ruins. Ahead, wilderness. Endless. Empty. The armor sat beside him. He hadn't worn it in weeks. Didn't need to. Nothing here required it. But he kept it close. Always close. The sword rested against his shoulder. Still sharp. Still ready. He'd been walking for 3 months. Found nothing. No people. No civilization. No doorways back. Just gray sky and gray ground, and the wind that never stopped. This place felt like purgatory. Punishment for something he'd done or something he'd failed to do. He wasn't sure which, but punishment or not, he kept moving. Because that's what he did. That's all he'd ever done. Behind him, the ruins whispered. Old stones holding old secrets, maybe answers. Maybe just more questions. He'd check eventually, when he was ready. For now he walked. And somewhere in another world, in another dimension, people fought battles he'd started. Pushed against systems he'd cracked. Made noise in spaces he'd forced open. He'd never know if it mattered. But that was fine. He hadn't done it for glory, or recognition, or thanks. He'd done it because someone needed protecting and no one else would. That was enough. It had to be. Guts adjusted the sword on his shoulder and kept walking into the gray. Behind him, the wind erased his footprints. Ahead, the wilderness waited. And somewhere between dimensions, between worlds, between possibilities, a door remained. Closed, but not locked. Never locked. Just waiting for someone strong enough to open it again. Before Guts appeared, Vought was untouchable. Homelander was unbeatable. Guts left behind 3 things that permanently changed how the world sees them. First, undeniable proof. Homelander bled. A symbol cracked. Faith wavered. Vought did not collapse, not completely. But it will never reclaim its former aura. The myth is broken, and myths do not heal.
Hey, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to turn on notification so you won't miss our future videos. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time in this channel.